Hey guys, Matt with Cykel. So I know you've probably seen, especially if you're following any of the social media with the crew or you see the signs out there on the trail, but one of the most important things that we're going to keep hammering home, and everybody else is too, when you're out riding your fat bike, is to make sure you're checking your tire pressure. So there's a couple different ways to do it. The best way to do it is a gauge, just to buy a gauge. If you have no idea what 2 psi to 5 psi feels like, or 6 or 10 or whatever, you should probably have yourself a gauge, because there's a massive difference between, especially on a fat tire bike, between 4 psi and 10 psi. On a lot of fat bikes, your 10 psi, that's going to be a rock hard tire, and on certain days, if it's soft out, that's going to have a good chance of wreck on the trails for the next guy behind you. Get yourself hollered at by somebody. But on some days, 2 to 4 psi might be great, but on other days that's going to be just way too soft, and you're going to have a really hard time getting yourself moving across the trails. So best thing to do, have a tire gauge, follow the crew on social media. We'll have recommendations. There's a bunch of different places out there to find, hey, today you should be running about this pressure. So use your resources in that way, but if you want a quick guide, generally speaking, you can also just do, if you don't have your gauge with you, you don't want to buy one, you can just do a good squish test. So if you roll up and you got your bike and you want to just sit on it and then take a look at your back tire. So right now this tire is probably sitting at about 10 pounds of air, so it's pretty firm. I'm going to sit on it, it's going to squish a little bit. This is probably not something you want to ride on the trails. It's going to be just way too firm, unless we get to the time where it's just really, really hard packed. That's going to really leave a rut. So definitely going to want to just start letting some air out. And the key to doing this, if you don't have a gauge, is to let small amounts of air out at a time. It's happened to a lot of people. You start letting air out, you get on it, you're like, well, crud, that's way too low. And then you're going to have to work really hard for quite a while. So I'm going to let some air out, let a little bit at a time, kind of just push on it. Then we're just going to see. So right now I can definitely feel that when I push on this, there's definitely some give to it. So if I'm going to sit on the bike, I'm going to look at it, that's a pretty good bulge. So that's definitely fairly appropriate for some slightly softer trails. If it starts getting really soft, I'm just going to check to see where we're at on the pressure here. Yeah, so we're at about 6 psi. So that's going to be fairly appropriate for kind of that mid to softish. Also depends on your weight. So if you're heavier, you're going to have to run just a little bit more air than somebody that's a lot lighter weight. So, but 6 pounds, and then let's drop her down to let's find 4. See what that looks like, because that's going to be pretty common on these heavy snow soft days. All right, so right there we're at 4 pounds. And you can see my hand when I'm just going to push on it. I'm easily able to push that through. So now let's take a look at the bulge when I sit on it. That's a pretty good bulge. So from standing to sitting, that tire is going out almost an inch and a half on both sides. So you're going to definitely feel the difference. You're going to have to work a little bit more, but that tire is really going to float well, and it's not going to wreck it for the guy behind you. So again, based on your weight, some people that are heavier, you're not going to be able to run below 4 pounds. People that are a lot lighter weight, you can run it really low and get away with it. So, but yeah, just a good gauge is if you start going down the trail a little bit, take a peek behind you, do the first little section, take a peek behind you. If you're leaving a big old groove, start dropping air pressure. These fat tires, you're not likely gonna run her off the bead. You can run it really, really low without having any tire issues, but definitely let small amounts of air out at a time until you get the perfect spot. So see you guys later.